Hello, Garland Nixon here. I'm sure you've heard about what's happened at Scott Ritter's house. Apparently, the FBI has raided his home and taken out a number of boxes. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. Give me a second. Rumble for some reason doesn't want to. I'm going to try to make a quick adjustment here. I'm going to tell you in a second what Scott has said. And we're going to do this, hopefully. Hopefully it'll work now. We will see what happens. I hope I'm on Rumble. Okay, let me remove it. And then let me try it again. Save changes. Sorry about that. And we're going to add Rumble now. And we're going to see if it works. We might just be on Rumble. Looks like we may be. I'm live. Beautiful. I'm live. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So, Scott, basically what happened is, let me start with this. And this just give you a little background. Let me give you a picture from my Facebook page. So as of Saturday, I hung out with Scott at, if I can get to my Facebook page, I want to show you a picture. This is from Sunday, in fact. Okay, let me show you this picture from Sunday when I hung out with Scott and a number of people. And, oh, wait a minute, you can't see Scott in that picture. Wrong picture. I hung out with Scott, and I'm going to show you all the people that were there. Maybe and believe me, I got a reason for doing this. I got a reason for showing you this picture. Let me show you who. Okay, here we go. You ready? Share screen. Facebook. Boom. So here's a picture from Sunday. It was Scott's what do you call it? Like a book launch kind of thing, right? Where he was, letting everybody know about his book. And if you can see all the people that are there, there's Margaret Kimberly, the wonderful, brilliant Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report. There's our guy, Randy Credico, WBAI, and, he of the voice of HR Puffin Stuff, a brilliant comedian. Next to him and next to Scott is Dmitry Polyansky. I think he's the deputy ambassador from Russia. Scott Ritter. Next to him, Dan Kovalik, author, human rights activist, brilliant guy. There's next to him, there's some guy, some nobody, who knows where that clown is. And then next to that clown with the funny looking shirt is the one and only Danny Highfall, right? And that's so that we were there. Everybody spoke about Scott, about Scott's book, and we spoke about the importance of Scott's work and all the fantastic work he was doing. Dmitry Polyansky got up and he said, in Russia, a lot of people really like Scott. They follow him very closely. And of course, why? Because Scott is working on an unthinkably evil project. And that unthinkably evil project is he's trying to bring Russians and Americans together so that, bring the love together, bring the culture together so they can understand it, each other, know more about each other, understand that we're all just people, right? So a lot of people in Russia, really appreciate Scott's work. And Dmitry Polyansky talked about that, and he said, "Look, we don't have Russians don't hate Americans. They don't, like the elites." And I said, "Hey, we don't like the elites either, right? Because they're trying to start wars and cause trouble and stop any kind of interaction between the peoples of the country, right?" So that was great. That was Sunday, but I had a bad feeling when we were all there talking about Scott, and Dmitry Polyansky was there, and we all said, "Keep up the good work, Scott. Hope you can bring the people of the U.S. and Russia together for cultural events and understand and know more about each other. You're writing books that'll help people understand what you're doing." I think Scott's written 10 or 11 books, so I thought that was a good thing. Seems not everybody thought that was a good thing, because what has happened now is apparently I got a message earlier today that the FBI had raided Scott's house. Now, I didn't know if if they gave him the full Uhuru treatment where they dragged him out, beat him mercilessly, I'm adding a bit to it, but you get the picture. Cuffed him, drones, all this kind of stuff. No, apparently they didn't go to that level. My understanding is they took out a number of boxes of stuff, and according to Scott, they claim that it was some kind of a Fara violation. Let's see. Let me find out what Scott said. He said it was related to concerns. Apparently, the U.S. government has about violations of the Foreign Agent Restrictions Act, Fara. All right. So that's what Scott had said. He said they executed a search warrant, quote, related to concerns apparently the U.S. government has about a violation of the Foreign Agent Restrictions Act. Okay, so people are talking about why, what are they after him for, blah, 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 blah. So that's out of Scott's own words. Now, okay, what is the Foreign Agent Restriction Act? It's an act. It was during World War II that they were concerned about German spies, and it hadn't been used at all in years. Never really used. If many of you probably know, my office is right on K Street, and where all of the lobbyists and everything, are all right around that area. And if they had been strictly enforcing the Fara Act, every damn body, I'd look outside, excuse me, on the street, and the streets would be empty. All of those people be in jail because, they're all getting money from foreign governments, getting contracts from foreign governments to try to make themselves look good, to hug up to the empire. But what we found I started seeing it during Russiagate when they were going after Trump. And that was anybody that they wanted to get, they would go after, and they'd say, "You're working for a foreign government. Therefore, of course, except Hunter Biden. If you're Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, that's all he does is work for foreign governments. But, it gets paid. But other than Hunter Biden, if you're a dissident, if you're pushing back against U.S. imperialism, if you're standing up against the empire, well, you're going to have problems." And so apparently now what they're saying is that Scott may have been working on behalf of a foreign government. Gee, I wonder what government they're talking about. There, no doubt. I don't know. Scott didn't say that, but I would suspect Russia, particularly. Look, this was just, I was there. I'm surprised they didn't raid my house. I was there. This is all of us. Margaret Kimberly, Randy Credico, Dmitry Polyansky. Oh, what an evil looking guy. The guy's got on shorts and flip-flops. And he just said nice stuff about Scott. That's all he said. And he did say, and I wonder, this was Sunday. This was 2 days ago. He did say the people in Russia really like Scott. The people, he didn't say the government. He said, all across Russia, people follow Scott's stuff. They buy his books. They read his books. They look forward to when he comes. They look forward to when he speaks. The people of Russia appreciate a regular guy like Scott Ritter. We know Scott is a brilliant guy. I mean, he's a humble guy, but he's a brilliant guy. We know that he's a guy with a backbone of titanium, that he stands up for what he believes in. And the people there really, really appreciate that Scott, and add this, the man was involved in helping to enforce some of the treaties, the missile treaties between, nuclear treaties between the U.S. and Russia. So he was in the Soviet Union. He was living with Russian people. He was traveling to their missile factories. He was there for years. He got to meet and understand the people. His wife is from Georgia, so he knows the region. He knows the area. He travels there, right? His girls are, of course, half Georgian, right? So, his family, it has connections to the region. Of course, it only makes sense that Scott would travel back and forth to the region. It only makes sense that Scott would want people here to know the people there and vice versa, so he could try to dissipate some of this angst and anger that's created by the powers that be, here by this red baiting. And I just think what we're looking at here is, this is part of the red baiting. This is part of the new Cold War. It's the Uhuru treatment. If you've been following the Uhuru 3, their trial starts September the 3rd. And what was their evil works of the Uhuru 3? What horrible things did they did? The Uhuru 3 is a African People's Socialist Party. It's run by a guy named Omali Yashiteli. He's 80 some years old. He was in SNCC, the Students Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, back in the 60s, with like King was around. And the guy does things like they get money to help people when they get out of prison in poor communities get a job and get different skills so they can get a job, and build basketball courts for kids and poor. I mean, they just terrible things that they do. And the government then said, I think that's one of their charges, a Fara violation, because Russia wants basketball. There's nothing Russia wants more than basketball community courts in poor Black communities, and prisoners that get out of jail to learn how to get a job and take care of themselves and be independent. Nothing Russia wants more than that. So basically the Uhuru 3, the FBI raided them, did that, and now September 3rd, their trial starts. You check out the Uhuru, check out their website, handsoffuhuru.org, UHURU, right? But I said that for this reason, not to take away from what Scott's going, to make my point about Scott. The Uhuru 3 traveled to Russia and came back, and they agreed they're anti-imperialist. We don't like what the U.S. empire is doing. We don't like what the U.S. empire is doing in Ukraine. And what does the U.S. do? Do they go after Hunter Biden? No. Hunter Biden represents Ukraine, China, Romania. It doesn't matter, anywhere that he's getting paid, man. Anywhere that Hunter can get paid. Let me ask you this. You know something that you don't want to own on November, about the second week of November? Hunter Biden paintings. He sold paintings for like 3, 4, 5, 800,000, and they're trash. They're garbage. They were sold. He sold the Biden name. He sold access to his father for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he called them paintings. Is he going to get charged for any crimes for that? That is criminal. It's criminal. Hunter Biden is the only person I know that ain't going to end up in jail for Fara is Hunter Biden. But yet, Scott Ritter is under investigation for Fara. They're looking into, perhaps Scott, let me add this. Have you ever seen Scott hide anything? Do you see Scott saying, oh, yeah, I'm not going to Russia? Never been there. I don't know anything. Right? You ever see Scott pretend, yes, I'm writing this book about Russia and just doing that for my leisure to make money? No, Scott makes it clear. I'm writing these books. I'm doing these things because I want to educate people, because I'm afraid we're going to have a nuclear war. And we need to bring the people of Russia together with the people of the U.S. Scott, no human being could be more open about his positions than Scott Ritter. But right now, we're in a fascist country. The Biden administration is pure fascist. And their idea is, we don't like Scott Ritter. This is Julian Assange. This is Uhuru. This is where we are now. It's not Scott Ritter violated the law. It's not he did anything wrong. It's we don't like Scott Ritter. And so we will use the FBI to go after Scott Ritter. For those who are coming in early, let me read exactly Scott Ritter's statement. He said that, I'm saying this part, the law enforcement executed a search warrant, quote, stop Ritter, related to concerns apparently the U.S. government has about violation of the Foreign Agents Restrictions Act. That's all he said at this point now. And of course, any attorney's going to tell him, don't say any more than that. Apparently they took out, I think he said they took out, let me see, more than 24 boxes Um, and Scott did say, I didn't do anything wrong, and he also did say that he felt that it was an intimidation tactic. He says he felt that this was a move to intimidate him, and I'm pretty sure he is right. While we're doing that, let me show you something else. If you think uh, maybe Scott's off the not quite where he needs to be on that, let me show you something that's going on right now. Look at this. At the same time, this is how they're cracking down. This is how scared they are. Look at this. U.S. spying on Tulsi Gabbard. This is right now, and this is related. The former congressman, Tulsi Gabbard, has reportedly been placed on the TSA's Quiet Skies watch list. Tulsi Gabbard is on a terrorist watch list. She's literally a current member of the military. If she is on the terrorist watch list, she'd have to be thrown out, court-martialed, right? The U.S. government has put former Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard on a special air traffic surveillance list, according to a group of air marshal whistleblowers. Gabbard served in Congress for 8 years. She's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, Tulsi Gabbard. For the TSA, Gabbard appears to be a security risk. Last month, she was placed into the Quiet Skies program and monitored whenever she flies, according to the Air Marshal National Guard Council. The outlet Undercover DC reported this week that Gabbard has 2 explosive detention K9 teams, 1 transportation security specialist, 1 plainclothes TSA supervisor, and 3 federal air marshals on every flight she boards. We're paying for that. Think about that. She gets on 2 K9 teams, 1 transportation security, that's 3 people, 2 teams, not single. So who knows how many people on the explosive team? 1 plainclothes TSA supervisor, 3. So she's got like probably a dozen people on every flight she boards. Tulsi Gabbard. What do you have explosive teams on with Tulsi Gabbard for? She's a lieutenant colonel in the military. The group also claimed that the TSA and FAMS have initiated armed government surveillance on high-level conservative politicians. The information they intend to reveal will horrify and sicken you as Americans. They accused TSA and its parent department, Homeland Security, of engaging in a big domestic surveillance grab that seems to be targeting conservatives, according to the group. Well, I'm going to bet you this is targeting any and everybody who goes against it. President, let's see. Gabbard has not yet commented on the whistleblower revelation. She just returned from Oklahoma, where she took command of a drill sergeant battalion that runs U.S. Army basic trainings. According to the TSA, Quiet Skies is a tool that allows the FAMS to focus on travelers who may present an elevated risk to aviation security. The agency claims to have developed a set of risk-based intelligence-driven scenario rules. Okay, so here's my point. Tulsi Gabbard now has, I guess she's the only one on the flight that's not with the feds, right? She's a lieutenant colonel apparently in the military, and for some reason, the U.S. government has decided that she is a flight risk, and they need 2 explosive teams, 2 teams of explosive people on every flight with her, and that she's got to have a whole group of other people. What do they think? First of all, explosive teams, can't they sniff her bags and sniff her? I read that she has recently said she was followed, apparently, that when she gets on planes that she's been taken aside, given extra. Now, here's the bottom line. That's just harassment. You and I know, and I know that she just took control of a battalion. So here's the question. Let me find that again. Let me read that. Let's see. I can't find. Oh, she just took command of a drill sergeant battalion that runs the U.S. Army basic training program. So The person who just took command of an Army drill sergeant battalion, we're supposed to believe that Homeland Security and the FBI thinks that she's going to blow up the damn plane so much that they got to have dogs and K9 teams and all that crap following her around. We're supposed to believe in that? No, they know she's not. Just like they know Scott Ritter is not working for the Russians or the Chinese or whoever the hell else they think that they claim to think he's talking about. That's not what it's about. They are following her around and harassing her because they don't like her, because they don't like what she's saying and they want her to know it. Scott Ritter, they're after Scott Ritter because they don't like what he's saying, they don't like what he's doing, and they want him to know it. This is the stuff that J. Edgar Hoover did to Martin Luther King and whoever else pushed back against him, and other people that, some that didn't quite make it out alive, like Martin Luther King. This is the thing that they've been doing for years. For years. It's amazing because there are people who thought that the FBI was the good guys. They've always been the bad guys. They are the ruling elites, thugs. The FBI are the goons. That's what they use to go after people they don't like. You think I don't know anything about the FBI? I worked with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force for a year. I know a little teeny bit about them. I ain't saying I work with them all the time, but I work with them on some projects that had to do with terrorism around 1990 something. Around 2004 or 5, in that range, something like that. 2003, 4, 5, in that range, early 2000s. I worked with them, and I went away thinking, number one, they're very smart guys. They're very, very well trained, and they're very well educated. So anybody that ever says to you, the FBI is a bunch of idiots, don't you believe it? They are not idiots. They're very smart. They're very well trained. They're very well educated. So if they do something and you think they're stupid, you're the one that's stupid. They ain't stupid. They're smart. They know what the hell they're doing. So if you see them do something that you feel they have no business doing, it's not that they're stupid. Oh, I can't believe they couldn't see the guy on the roof. Not that with the FBI. They're so incompetent. They ain't incompetent, which means that anything they do that has the appearance of incompetence is in fact something that they know exactly what they're doing. They plan to do it. It's not incompetence. It's evil. It's not incompetence. It's illegal. It's violations of the law. When they violate the law, they don't violate the law out of stupidity. It is intention, and they are then covering it up. And so right now, this is what J. Edgar Hoover would do. Nothing's changed. Oh, Scott Ritter's out there saying we need to do something different. Sorry about that, Scott. We got to send a message to you. Okay, Scott was going to speak at Spieth. They took his what do you call it? They took his passport. He was going to speak at Spieth, which is the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg, Russia, right? Let's face it. What was he going to do? You know what I mean? They took his passport. Fara, and he was Fara. Well, he wasn't here. He wasn't speaking to the United States. He was speaking in Russia. If he had been speaking on behalf of the Russian government, which he wasn't, he'd be in Russia. He would not coming here. So they took his passport. No, you can't go to the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum because you might speak on behalf of the. He was in Russia. He didn't. What was he hiding it? Well, you know what? I think I'll go to St. Petersburg and speak at the International Economic Forum because the government will never figure it out. Then the FBI will never know what I'm doing. How slick could I be? It's absurd and it makes no sense. So he goes there, and then they wouldn't tell him what it's about. And now what does he do? Now he's writing books. Are you writing? He wrote one with Anya Kay, I think. What's she from Poland? Is that also? They're both working on behalf of a foreign government. He wrote a friggin' book. He's been writing books for I don't know how long. So just like the Uhuru movement, what did they do? The Uhuru movement started. The guy that runs it started in 1966. Doing stuff in 1966. Been an activist. He's been working in the Black community, poor people's community, doing the stuff that he could ever since 1966. And suddenly the FBI just decided in the last couple of years, you know what? I think now, after the last 60 or 70 freaking years, I think now he must be doing, 60 years, close to it? 57 years? But the last couple of years, he was working for the Russians. In other words, we don't like what you're doing right now because it causes us problems. They didn't like the Huru because you know what they were saying in those black communities too? They were saying you're being had by the Democratic Party. You're being had by the system. You're being schnookered. These people ain't going to do nothing for you. You know what Chairman O'Malley always says about the Democrats and the black people? He said one thing about the Democrats, they don't lie. He says they don't promise you nothing in the first place. So they're not lying, telling you they're going to give you something. They ain't promise you nothing. They can't stand you. Why should you support them? You need to look in another direction. That's what he's saying. You know what? I don't think the FBI likes that particularly right now. I don't think the government likes that. I don't think the Biden administration likes that. So that's why they went after the Uhuru movement to take them out. They probably figure like this. We'll start September 3rd. Even if we don't get a conviction, September, October, at a time when the Uhuru would be out there saying to the Democrats and the people in the black community, you're being had by the Democrats, you're being schnookered. They won't be doing that because they'll be in trial. So even if they get off, they've shut their mouth for 2 months leading up to the election. And now with Scott, I think it's kind of the same thing too. Think about this. Do you think that it is, as I said, Scott has said that it appears that they're apparently saying the FBI is saying that they suspect him of a violation of the Fara Act, and they've taken like a couple of dozen or so boxes out of his house. But do you think it's an accident that we're like 90 days from the election, less than that, but close to it, 3 months for the election, 2.5 months from the election. And now is when they suddenly decided to go after Scott Ritter. Just all these, Scott's been doing this all along. He's, you watch on Thursdays. I have him, not always. Sometimes he's traveling, sometimes I'm traveling. But most Thursdays I have Scott Ritter. And guess what? He says what he believes. And what am I? Am I the Russian government too? He doesn't say anything any different on this platform than he does on any other platform. And now suddenly, 2.5 months before the election, they suddenly decided that Scott's working for the Ruskies. I guess, I'm assuming it's the Ruskies they think he's working for. But keep in mind something. It's the Russian government. Now, I know Scott has done some tours in Russia. I know that Scott has done all kind of book signings in Russia, speeches in Russia. He's gone to Chechnya. He's gone to the new territories that were formerly in Eastern Ukraine. He's done all that Crimea. He's been in all those kinds of places, right? We know Scott's done that. Okay. But he wasn't working with the Russian government. He was working with various and sundry people in Russia, with friends of his in Russia, with people in Russia that would help to find it, but not the government. They didn't go after him and say, you violate. I heard somebody say, do you think it had something to do with somebody who was sanctioned or something? At the time I said, I don't know. But apparently, according to Scott, it wasn't nothing like that. It wasn't like, hey, you work with somebody that was sanctioned and we're going to fine you for that. No. Now, it's apparently they're saying he did something for a government of some time, apparently the Russian government. That's the claim. We know that's false. We know that's a fraud. We know that's a bunch of crap, that they're going after Scott Ritter because Scott Ritter stands up against the system, man. And let me show something else. Let me show you where we are right now. Let me show you something else. Just a couple quick other things. A couple quick other stories that you need to see to know where we are in the U.S. empire. Look at this. Germany convicts pro-Palestine activists from the river to the sea chant, right? Her name's Ava Mayora. She said from the river to the sea. So they convicted her. Okay. It's the first examination of a politically charged expression by German authorities. She said that they said that the chant was particularly problematic and controversial in Germany, which considers support for Israel occupation a matter or reason of state as the nation, blah, blah, blah. Okay. No criminal record, received a sentence less than the $900 fine, 900-pound fine sought by prosecutors who are considering appeal. Her lawyer called the verdict a win for state oppression. So the bottom line is this. Now look at this other one. Let me show you another one to show you where we are right now. just to show you a couple other things. Look at this. Estonia charges journalists with treason for working with Russian media, right? So she was a former Sputnik reporter, so Svetlana Burtseva, of treason, of breaching sanctions on Russia and writing a book on hybrid warfare that allegedly challenged and disreputed state institutions. So now in the U.S., in its empire, because Estonia, let's face it, that's a U.S. colony. Germany, they got no independence. So now Germany is putting somebody in jail for saying from the river to the sea, something that Netanyahu just said a couple months ago. Estonia is saying you wrote a book that challenged and disreputed state institutions. She wrote a book and, hey, I think they're wrong about Russia. Imagine you write a book and say, I think the government's wrong about Russia, and I think they're a bunch of assholes. And they say, oh, ho, ho, that's treason now. Well, let me tell you something. If it's happening in Estonia, it's coming here. It's coming here. It's coming here. You can't say from the river to the sea. You literally get convicted and fined, literally put in jail for saying from the river to the sea, literally convicted and fined and put in jail for writing a book that says that challenges and disreputed state institutions. Listen to this. According to state prosecutor Anneli Loritz, Burtseva's text, her book, listen to this, were published in online news serving the interests of Russian propaganda. They didn't even say she did anything. She wrote something, I think the government screwed up and wrong. Oh, man. The Russians would love that you said that. No, you didn't have to be working for them. You didn't pay for them. No relation to them. It just, quote, serves the interest of Russian propaganda. Isn't that what they're doing to the Uhuru movement? They're saying the Uhuru movement, they gave speeches and said, I don't like what the United States is doing in Ukraine. The U.S. is using Ukraine to go after Russia. And they charged them for that, saying, yeah, well, you only said that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that you're not allowed to say it, but that Russia made them say it or inspired them to say it. So therefore, it's a crime. That's the kind of stuff that the Uhuru is being charged for. Okay? That they're representing the Russians. And now we got Scott Ritter, a Fara violation, a man who goes back and forth to Russia. And might I add this? Scott Ritter said all along, I have hidden nothing. I have in no way tried to hide anything. I want everybody to know what I'm doing. Here I am. Listen to me, hear me out. He's been as open as one. Scott Ritter, if the Congress and the White House would allow him to meet with them and speak before them, he'd do it. If he recently had a dinner with RFK Jr., and I guarantee you this, if Scott Ritter had the opportunity to talk to RFK Jr., you know what Scott Ritter did? He said what he believed. There's no other way. Scott and I are very good friends. And one of the reasons, I'm a former law enforcement officer. He's a Marine. There's this kind of a weird oneness there. We're both dissident kind of people that pushes back against the system. There's that. But Scott's a brilliant guy. And we all know this. If Scott wanted to go along with the system, he'd be a very rich and powerful man. He wouldn't have a criminal record because, they cooked up crimes against him in the past. And now people use that against him. But it was all cooked up. He's a brilliant guy. Scott could be wealthy. People respect him. He's brilliant. I mean, he plays like he's just an old country guy, right? I had a friend like that. It was brilliant. And he said, well, I'm just an old country lawyer. And then he'd just take the court apart, right? And Scott's that kind of guy. Well, I'm just an old jarheaded Marine. But when you listen to him, you're like, holy crap. I mean, he's a historian. He understands the tactics and everything when it comes to military. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. He could teach anywhere. He could do anything he wanted. Scott Ritter could be the Secretary of the Defense, anything he wanted. He's well capable to do that. He worked for assistant to General Schwarzkopf, right? So Scott knows his stuff. But Scott chooses to tell the truth. And because he tells the truth, he struggles. He doesn't have a lot of money. Because he tells the truth, he has to feed his family. He doesn't get a fortune to feed doing. Where are you going to make money telling the truth? So Scott has made a choice. And that choice is, I'd rather tell the truth and not be rich. I'd rather tell the truth and struggle, right? And Scott and I are friends because a lot of people know me, know my history. I was with Fox News, and I was on the move, doing a TV program in New York and Philly and Jersey. I was on the move. I was hosting TV programs for Fox News. I was on Knoxville. I was on the move, man. I was on the move. And all I had to do was keep doing what I was doing. And when I started hosting a show, I had to read from the teleprompter. Because see, I was a person that I was just an analyst, political analyst. I come on TV and they say, "Wow, what do you think about this, Carlin?" And I'd say this or that. That was great. Laura Ingraham show, whatever, O'Reilly, Tucker Carlson, every week I was on one to the next, several times a week, right? And then when I started hosting the show myself, you know how it starts. When the guy who actually does the show is off, they let me host it, right? So when I started hosting the show myself, I'm reading from a teleprompter. I'm like, I can't do this. I did that for 30 days. I did that for 1 month. Then I quit. I couldn't do it anymore, right? Forget the money and the power and the fame and all the limos and all that crap. I can't say things I don't believe in. So I had great opportunity and I walked away from it. Right. And that's one of the reasons that Scott and I are very close friends, because I understand I can't say things that I believe. I don't care how much money is in it for me. And that's Scott, a man who could be powerful and wealthy and have international fame if he wanted to go along with the system, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He tells the truth. And because he told the truth, now he's being investigated for some Fara violation, and they're harassing him, and they cooked up a case against him and accused him of a crime. And a while back, just like Assange, they did the same thing. You know the game. You know the game. They cook up lies against you. They accuse you of something, and then they make up a story, and everybody says you did it. John Kiriakou, same thing. He had the unmitigated gall to put forth the evidence that the CIA was doing. Was actually using torture. And what did they do? They cooked up an espionage story. They put him in jail. That's the way it works. If you're inside and you tell the truth about something, you're going to jail, and then they'll hold it over your head. They use that to discredit you, so that afterward they can say, well, Scott's convicted, John Kiriakou's convicted, Julian Assange is convicted. They use that to go against you. They use that to discredit you from then on. That's all it's about. It's about discrediting you. And it's also about ensuring that anybody who sees you will know, don't you do it. Because if you do, you're going to pay the price. That's what it is. So we got some super chats. If you got a question, if you have a question, put it in the super chat. I see we got a ton of super chats. I'm going to try my best to answer all of them. We get great questions with super chats. And if you have one, I'm going to take my time bit by bit and go through every single one of them. If you got one, put it in the super chat. Thanks a lot, Conan. As I said, Scott's exact words for those who weren't. I'm going to read you what Scott said. Wrote it down right here. Scott said that he didn't say, I'm saying this part, the law enforcement executed a search warrant, quote from Scott Ritter, related to concerns apparently the U.S. government has about violations of the Foreign Agent Restrictions Act, right? Unquote. Apparently, okay, so that's his words. Scott has denied any allegations of wrongdoing, and he said the federal government was trying to intimidate him. That's what Scott Ritter's saying. That's what we got so far from Scott Ritter, okay? For those of you who don't know, that's the best update we have. Let's keep going, and any super chats we got, okay, here's somebody else. Sparky, the Sparkster says, bring Cynthia McKinney back from exile to be in the next U.S. president administration. Yeah. Look, somebody said to me, you should run for office, Carl. And I said, yeah. If I would run for office, can you imagine me and Scott Ritter running for office? There'd be some 22-year-old kid laying on top of a roof that the Secret Service couldn't find. There'd be like a dozen kids laying across the roof somewhere, guns pointed at us. There are 1,000 people in the audience. Hey, big signs all over the place. Shooter on the roof. The guy'd be wearing a shirt that says, I'm going to shoot Garland Nixon. A post holding a rifle on Twitter, holding his rifle and a sign. This is the rifle I'm going to use to shoot Garland Nixon. Hashtag shoot Garland Nixon today at the rally, right? Everywhere. He would post it everywhere. He'd put up a balloon. A skywriter, a plane would go by. I'm going to shoot Garland Nixon who's running for president. And everybody would be like, hey, Secret Service, he's going to shoot Garland Nixon. And the Secret Service would be like, huh? Sorry, all our guys are in that building over there. We're trying to stop anybody from shooting Garland Nixon. So yeah, perhaps if I ran, the Secret Service would get even worse than they are now. All right, we're going through the super chats. Sparky says Scott Ritter and Garland Nixon are guilty of malicious mischief and scientific heresy, like in the original Planet of the Apes. You got it, brother. You have got it. Thank you, Conan. Another one. I know we're going to get plenty. Okay. Tig Drib says foreign agent law for U.S. Totally cool. Foreign agent law for Georgia. Anti-democratic, pro-Russian fascism. Exactly. Right now, the U.S. is fighting against the foreign agent law, which was patterned after the one we have in the country of Georgia, because Georgia's got a whole bunch. They've got like, what is it? They've got like one foreign NGO for like every 300 citizens. They got like 20,000 foreign NGOs in Georgia, and the government's mad because, the U.S. government's mad because Georgia wrote a law that says if you got a nonprofit, you got to tell us where you're getting the money. And the U.S. says that's horrible. That's a Russian law, so you shouldn't be able to do it. And might I add, Nicaragua was doing the same thing and got the same harassment from the U.S. government. They only we can have the Fara. Anybody else who has it, it's a violation of international law. It's a crime against humanity. You know why? Because for this, what they're doing to Scott right now, the government knows that they use it as harassment, but they're afraid these other governments will use it for the real thing. Let's keep going. I think its speech against Mossad influence in the U.S. is really what got him into trouble. That's one of the many things. It's a bunch of stuff. You know, and they got to send a message to the rest of us. Sparky says, go answer Allah, fight the power. Thank you, Sparky. We're answering the super chats right now. Anybody that has a question, be sure to put it in the super chat because I'm going through them. We got a bunch of them. Sparky, did you see where the U.S. just regime changed Bangladesh? Yes, probably to bring them freedom and democracy. Nothing to do with they voting against Israel at the UN or their plans to join BRICS. Absolutely. The Bangladesh had riots, and then all of a sudden, the government lost. The government was changed. Some of the people in the government got killed, and the new leader of Bangladesh went to school in the U.S. Okay, went to college in the U.S. Jenny Bien says Scott has been showing signs of stress recently. That'll be why they chose now. Well, who wouldn't? Of course, you're going to go show Scott. I'm showing signs of but yeah, Jenny Bien. Look, you're right in that this is the plan. They want to stress me out, you out, Scott out. They want to stress the people in the chat out. They want to stress all of the people who are out there, whether it's Larry Johnson or Ray McGovern, all that kind of stuff. They want us all scared. They want to keep our mouths shut. And they don't have anything on Scott. Come on, if they did have anything on Scott, they'd use it. Edward Bernays, since Nutty Yahoo's Totaler Krieg speech to Congress, reference Joseph Goebbels' 1943 speech, post-Nazis defeat at Stalingrad, Hezbollah and Hamas leaders were topped. Race problems kick off in the UK. Scott Ritter, Tulsi Gabbard, and others are tailed, arrested, and tailed in a review. Good point. Good point. Maybe related. But Netanyahu comes. He has some under-the-table speeches, no doubt, with different people. Probably gave him a list. And Scott Ritter was named. These people got to go down. Here's a list. And, if Netanyahu gives them a list, it's good as gold in Washington, D.C. with the Biden administration. Let's keep looking. That's a good point. Very brilliant point. Dennis Merwood, thank you. Let's keep going. Old Crow. There's a cheap liquor called Old Crow. All right. If she's in command, she's not flagged and she has a clearance. This makes no sense, Garland, and Mayorkas are corrupt. Exactly. How can you say that Tulsi Gabbard is in charge of a battalion? She's in the U.S. military. She's active duty, but yet she's a threat. So to the point where they've got to tailor with a whole group of bomb dogs. And really, she's going to blow something up? Really, Lieutenant Colonel? It's just harassment, and this is what they do in this criminal, with this criminal regime that we have in power right now. I'm going through super chats. If you have a comment or question, put it in the super chat. I'm going to make sure, and then I'm going to go to Rockfin next and see if we got any there. I'm also going to go and see if we got some. Okay, let's go to Rockfin. None over Rockfin. we're going to go to Rumble and see if we got any, what are they called? Rumble rants? My content. Okay, we got some. Tropical Rocket says, "What kind of evidence are they going to find there?" You know, a good comment. For taps, I should learn how to spell the word rage right, and I got reads REAIDS Scott Ritter and Rumble. But at any rate, well, here's the bottom line: as you guys know, it's harassment. And they want people to speculate, and they want people to think, oh yeah, the case that they put against Scott Ritter, which again was simple harassment, it was all been lawfare. They're going after him, and the question is, who's next? Who's next? Who are they going to go after next? You know what I mean? And I add this too: Scott Ritter's got to be the cleanest guy on earth. Let me tell you something. If a lot of people like us, like me and Scott and various people, I'm not comparing myself to Scott Ritter by any stretch of the imagination, but those of us who are online, we got to be somewhat clean because they're looking. If they came to me tomorrow and said, Garland, you're a Russian spy, you know what I'd say? I'd say, look, and I know that you got every email, every text, everything I have bugged. You know good and damn well that I ain't no Russian spy, because if I was, you'd have the evidence. I'm not some technical wizard. I can't figure out. The NSA and Homeland Security can bug everything I have, and it's all bugged. I just live my life and say what I got to say and live my normal life because I know it's all bugged. So if it's bugged, who gives a rat's ass? I'm living my life. So if any given day they want to come take me away, they'll do what they're doing to Scott. They'll say, Garland, it's a Fara violation, and therefore we've got to do whatever the case may be, right? I already know that. But if they came to me and said, Garland, you're a Russian spy, I'd say, you already know I ain't. Don't play this game with me. Everything I have is bugged. Every email, every text, and you know damn well I ain't. So what is it really? Do we have to play this game? That's what I'd say if they came to me and said, you're a Russian spy. I'd say, damn Russian spy, get the hell out of here. Don't play this game with me. Okay, who else do we have here? We got a couple other people. Belugi the Beluga says, my message didn't come out right, but Tulsi is very anti-Palestinian. Look, I'm not saying that I agree with Tulsi when I don't agree with her on Israel. There's things that I don't agree with her on. There's things, I'll put it like this. I've gone up for a while. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm a lefty. I'm a far lefty. Trump would not have at all agree with my ideology. But I believe that Trump deserves justice, a fair shot. I don't believe from Russiagate the whole time I said it's a bunch of crap. They're going after Trump, and I mean they're cooking all these lies. I didn't care whether Trump likes me. Trump could hate me. You know what? I believe in consistency, rule of law, not arbitrary application of the law. Somebody could be a member of the KKK. They could have a picture of me on the wall that says, I want to hang Garland, right? Well, I may go after him for that. But I'm just saying their whole existence could be, if I could just hang Garland, that'd be it. And I would argue that person has free right speech to say anything that's any constitutional right that there is, that they should have it. It doesn't have to do with whether you agree with me, whether you like me, whether I agree with you. So the issue of Tulsi Gabbard's beliefs aren't relative to me. Doesn't matter what she does or doesn't believe. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'm RFK Jr., same thing. He was great on a lot of stuff, and I disagree with him strongly when it comes to the Palestinian issue, the Gaza, the Israeli issue. But that being said, I believe in constitutional consistency. So here, because you see, if you let them get away with it one place, to get away with it, the fact that they can get away with it against somebody you don't like, it from the very beginning, when they went after Alex Jones, who I've met Alex Jones, who I've interviewed Alex Jones, talked to him before. He asked me to come on his show, but I didn't at the time. Mainly, I was in mainstream media at the time, and I really couldn't go on Alex Jones at the same time I was, working in mainstream media. That was a fact. Is what it is. I'm not denying that. You ask me, Garland Nixon, I'll tell you something. Why did you go on Alex Jones? Because I was in mainstream media, right? At that time, and I just couldn't do it. So, because I wouldn't have been in mainstream media, and I wanted to continue to say the things that I was saying in mainstream media. So I made a choice not to go on Alex Jones when Alex Jones personally asked me to come on his show and be interviewed. Okay. And talk to him. But my point was, there are a lot of things I don't agree with Alex Jones on. But I'll say this. I said, if you let them go after Alex Jones, next they'll go after the next person, the next person, and the next person. And that's exactly what they've done. So thank you, Belugi the Beluga. I agree with you. She's terrible on Israel. Agreed. But notwithstanding her position there, what they did doing is wrong. And I disagree with it because I believe in legal consistency. And then you know what comes next. They do it to us. Let's next go to Silver Fact. Silver Fact says, thank you, God, for speaking truth through the heaven, though the heavens may fall. You and Scott are heroes. Free Pal S. Stein. Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate that. Is there anybody else? I think that's it, gang. And that is 50 minutes. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. If you would be so kind, as you probably know, I am not on X. I'm on Facebook, but I am censored to bloody hell on Facebook. I mean, I got like 5,000 friends, and I got I'll put stuff up and it'll have like 2 likes. And people say, I never see your stuff, Garland. And then I'll just put up a bland statement that says much of nothing. And in minutes, I'll get 60, 70, 80, 100. I just put up a picture, 400 likes. Then I put up something that says, there's an issue with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. Nobody seems to see that, right? So lastly, anybody who missed out, anybody who hasn't been reading, seeing, well, let me read what Scott's statement is one more time. He said that this search, he says, was, quote, related to concerns apparently the U.S. government has about violations of the Foreign Agent Restrictions Act. Scott has also denied all allegations, and he's also said that the federal government is trying to intimidate him. Well, Scott Ritter, I don't think it's going to work. How's that? Thanks a lot, everybody. Do me a favor. As you can see everything scrolling across the bottom, if you can afford to contribute to the channel, certainly appreciate that. If you can't, that's fine. People got to eat. People got families. Save the money for your family. Take care of your family. But if you can, that's great. Either way, please, especially on X, because I ain't there. Everybody share this on all your social media platforms. Oh, we got to go out with the Sparkster. And he says, make Israel Syria again. In those Ottoman Empire days, Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. Thanks a lot, everybody. Sparky, my main man, he's always in the house. Share this on all your social media platforms. Peace. I'm out.